Okay, so good evening. Tonight we're going to learn about 15th of Av, but tonight, the 14th of Av, is the anniversary day of the passing of my grandfather, sorry. And our Torah study is going to be Leilui Nishmat in memory of Ephraim Fischel Beirach ben Yaakov Yitzchak, my grandfather who passed away. Today is his anniversary day, and I'm sure that the Torah that we study all together will bring him a lot of elevation and joy, Bezrat Hashem. So let me share with you the screen, and we're going to start. It's again a revolution way on how we learn the Torah, and especially explaining the day that we're going to celebrate on Saturday night. On Friday night, which is the 15th of Av, which is known as the celebration of the holiday of love, the celebration of love. So let's first see it from the source in the Talmud, and then we'll try and go to the Talmud to see why the date of this day was chosen to be in the 15th of Av, because of an historical event that happened in the history in this day, in the 15th of Av. Okay, could you see my screen?
Yes, Rabbi.
Okay, is it big enough?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start with source number 1, which is again from the Talmud. What is described and what happened in the 15th of Av, and why is it considered the festival of love and it remain till date the festival of love? Let's see. Chenji, please.
Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said, "There were no days as joyous for the Jewish people as the 15th of Av and as Yom Kippur, because on these days the daughters of Jerusalem would go out in white clothes, which each woman borrowed from another. Why were they borrowed? They did this so as not to embarrass one who did not have her own white garments. The daughters of Jerusalem would go out and dance in the vineyards. And what would they say? 'Young man, please lift up your eyes and see what you choose for yourself for a wife. Do not set your eyes towards beauty, but set your eyes towards a good family. As the verse states, grace is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a woman who fears God, she shall be praised.'"
Okay, and the Talmud continues. Who were they were getting their clothes from, right? Because they were borrowing clothing. Who they would get their clothing from? So let's see.
The daughter of the king borrows white garments from the daughter of the high priest. The daughter of the high priest borrows from the daughter of the deputy high priest. The daughter of the deputy high priest borrows from the daughter of the priest anointed for war. That is, the priest who will read verses of Torah and address the army as they prepared for battle. The daughter of the priest anointed for war borrows from the daughter of a common priest. And all the Jewish people borrow from each other. Why would they all borrow garments? They did this so as not to embarrass one who did not have her own white garments.
Okay, so this is how everybody they would go and dance in the vineyard and in white clothing. White, again, it's a common color, but also their clothing would not be their own clothing, but they would borrow it from someone else. Okay, when you borrow from someone else, so those who don't have their own, they are not embarrassed because everybody is wearing borrowed dress. Okay, and what they would say?
What would the beautiful women among them say? "Set your eyes towards beauty, as a wife is only for her beauty." What would those of distinguished lineage among them say? "Set your eyes towards family, as a wife is only for children, and the children of a wife from a distinguished family will inherit her lineage." What would the ugly ones among them say? "Acquire your purchase for the sake of heaven, provided that you adorn us with golden jewelry after our marriage to beautify us."
Yeah. So each one would say what he has. Okay, each one of those women would say what they have,
Hello?
and this used to be a massive engagement party. Okay, this was a matchmaking for the masses. And actually, there is a book which is called the Kolbo, one of the oldest authority books in the Jewish Code of Law. He explained why they would do it. Who was this celebration? This event was meant for whom? So he explains the follows. Let's see source number 3.
This practice shouldn't sound shocking. Know that anyone who could afford to marry off their daughter wouldn't send her there. This custom was for women whose fathers weren't financially able to marry them off. If not for this practice, they would remain single until their hair turned white.
So in other words, what the Kolbo explained, that why was it such a happy event? Because it was a day of gathering, of a mass matchmaking, and a mass matchmaking for all those who, without this celebration, they wouldn't be able to get married. They would get stuck. Okay, so that day was a day of happiness and a day of celebration for many, because many who otherwise wouldn't be able to get married, thanks to this day, thanks to this custom, thanks to this celebration and dancing, it was the reason for them, the opportunity for them to get married. And obviously, when people who otherwise wouldn't get married, it brings a lot of joy, especially for those who actually manage to find their match. Actually, after the destruction of the temple, our sages canceled this event, this woman dancing in the vineyard, because people were not anymore in the spiritual level that they could go to attend this festival just for the purpose of actually finding a woman to get married. Okay, you need to be in a very specific spiritual level to go to such an event for the sake of finding a wife to get married, and not for other evil inclination side things. So our sages basically, actually canceled them. And one of the stories that we hear in the book of Eicha, okay, where we mourn the destruction of both temples, in one of the songs there, it explains that this day, which used to be this month, which used to be a month of joy for all the Jewish people with this matching, turned to be a month of sadness because it was canceled after the destruction of Bet HaMikdash. Okay, now we said in the beginning, in the opening verse, we said, let's see it again, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said there were no days of joyous for the Jewish people as of 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. But what we explain now is, it's a happy day. But to come and say that there was no happier days for the Jewish people than this day of matchmaking and Yom Kippur, I mean, couldn't you choose another day? Couldn't you choose, Hanukkah, Purim, or many other happy days that are related and applicable to all the Jewish people? Why our sages chose, in particular, the 15th of Av, this day, to be a day of joy for the entire Jewish people? So let's see, what does the Talmud say? And the Talmud bring few other things that happen on the day of 15th of Av. Let's see, source number 4.
Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said, there were no days as happy for the Jewish people as the 15th of Av and as Yom Kippur. The Talmud asks, granted, Yom Kippur is a day of joy because it has the elements of pardon and forgiveness. And moreover, it is
why? Because Yom Kippur was the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the heaven, from the sky, after he was there for the second time, receiving the second tablet. And the second tablet, it's a sign that Hashem actually forgiven us for the sin of the golden calf. So Yom Kippur, this is why we fast on Yom Kippur until today, because Yom Kippur is the day of atonement. Not only is the day of atonement from our end, but Hashem actually accepted our request for forgiveness. Okay, so we understand that Yom Kippur, it's a very happy day. And the Ritva, which is one of the Rishonim, explains something very, very nice. He says that Yom Kippur, it's a day where the Satan is not working on Yom Kippur. Why? Because Ha-Satan, the word Ha-Satan, which is the Satan, the numeric value of Ha-Satan, it's 364. Okay? Hey, Shin, Tet, and Nun. Okay, so Hey, it's 5, Shin, it's 300, Tet is 9, and Nun is 50. Together comes to 364. How many days we have in a year, in a sun year? 365, right? Because there's one day, which is Yom Kippur, which the Satan is not working. Satan is not effective on that day. Okay? And this is the day of Yom Kippur because Hashem on that day has forgiven us. So I understand why Yom Kippur is a day of joy. But what happened on the 15th of Av that it became so significant? That's the question that he's asking. So the Talmud quotes number of things that happened in the 15th of Av, that because of those things, our sages made this day, declared this day as the happiest day in the Jewish calendar. Let's see what are the things that turned this day to be the happiest day in our calendar. Let's start.
Rabbi Judah said in the name of Shmuel, on this day, tribes were permitted to intermarry with each other. What was their source? The verse states, this is a matter that God has commanded concerning the daughters of Selafchad. From here, they derived that it is only applicable in that generation.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, we had in the Torah the story of the daughters of Tzlofchad. Tzlofchad, their father, it was a father who had only daughters, and he died in the desert. Now the land in Israel will be divided to tribes, and each tribe, the father of the family will get his portion in the land of Israel. But these daughters of Tzlofchad, they came complaining to Moshe Rabbeinu. They said to Moshe Rabbeinu, our father died in the desert. We have no siblings, meaning we don't have brothers. We are only daughters. So we will not be able to get a portion in the land of Israel. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, you have a good point. Let me ask Hashem. So Hashem says that the daughters of Tzlofchad, they should get their father's portion. But then the rest of his tribe came complaining. And they came and they said, listen, it's going to be a problem. What's going to be the problem? Those daughters, they will mature and they will get married. If they will get married to people outside our tribe, then the land will belongs to their husband. And our tribe land will be missing. We were supposed to get a piece of the land, but that piece of land, they will go to the families of the husband of these daughters. So Hashem said, they have a good point. So therefore, the daughters of Tzlofchad need to get married only within their tribe. In order for the land to remain, the promised land, the piece of land in Israel, to remain within the tribe. What it caused? It caused that all the different tribes, we have 12 tribes in Am Israel, each tribe only got married within the tribe itself. So the next year, our sage says, not the next year, after they actually got to the land of Israel and the land was divided and actually given to the people, our sages said this was applicable only to that generation, only to the generation of the Bnot Tzlofchad, right? And this is how they learn it. And what day they ruled that everybody can get married to each other was the 15th of Av. And because they ruled it on 15th of Av became a day of celebration, that your options of getting married is much wider now. Not only if you're from the tribe of Judah, you can marry only women or men from the tribe of Judah, but you can marry the entire Jewish people. So this is the first thing that happened in the 15th of Av. Let's jump
What happens to the land? But what happens to the land?
So actually after the land was divided in the beginning, the land started moving from one to another. So it was only the ruling of Hashem to Bnot Tzlofchad was only relevant to Bnot Tzlofchad. Okay? This is what they say, they learn from the verse. This is the matter that God has commanded concerning the daughters of Tzlofchad, meaning that it's relevant only to this generation, only to this time. After that time, it's not relevant anymore. And actually, the land of Israel, the pieces, the tribes, the different tribes' inheritance, if they got married, so the piece of the land would go and belong to another tribe. Any questions?
Suppose the man had only daughters after that generation, okay?
Yes.
The daughter of Judah marries the daughter of Levi.
Right.
She's married to a Levi. What happens to her portion of the land?
Levi is not a good. Levi is not a good.
No, let's say Dan. Let's say Dan.
Dan. Yeah. So it goes, and now it becomes, because the inheritance, it goes according to the father. I mean, the children of this woman, they will be Dan. They will belong to the tribe of Dan. Robin, you saying something?
Sorry, Rabbi.
Okay. Just anybody want to speak? Just unmute yourself. So what the children are their tribe is based on the father, not on the mother. Okay, so they inherit the land, and now this land belongs to somebody who's from the tribe of Dan. Yep. So it's shifting after the first generation. The first generation, the daughters of Bnot Tzlofchad, it wasn't permitted. But what the result of this not being permitted is that every girl could only be married to somebody from her own tribe.
Okay, but after that generation, if they later on after fourth generation of that generation, as a girl from Judah marries Dan, her property goes with her to Dan?
Yes, provided she is inheriting, provided she has no siblings.
She has no brothers, and she is the only daughter.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Right.
Okay. Let's jump to the second thing that happened in the 15th of Av. And that's a little bit of a sad story. Okay.
The tribe of Binyamin was permitted. Rabbi Yosef said in the name of Rabbi Nachman, on this day, the tribe of Binyamin was re-permitted to marry into the rest of the Jewish people. As the verse states, now the men of Israel had sworn in Mitzpah, saying, no man from us shall give his daughter to Binyamin for a wife. What verse did they derive this permission from?
Let me just pause you for a second. There's a story in the Navi, in Shmuel. Sorry, this is I think it's in Melachim. The different tribes, after they got the land of Israel, different tribes settled in their own, each tribe settled in his own piece of land. There was a person from the tribe of Benjamin, and this person, he had a wife, okay? Wasn't his regular wife, he had an extra wife, Pilegesh it's called. and one day he was traveling, and he stayed over in a city in the tribe, in the area of Benjamin. That city was called Mitzpah, okay? Sorry, Giva. And these people, the inhabitant of the tribe of Benjamin, they weren't behaving. In the middle of the night, they took away the wife, they raped her, and when she came back in the morning, she died. So what this person did, he ran back to his wife with his to his house with his dead wife. He cutted his wife's body into 12 pieces, and he sent all the people of Israel, each tribe, a piece of his wife's body. It was a sign to show them how terrible the people of Benjamin have become. He wanted to show them, like, to what extent, to what low extent those people came. And when the Jews received, the rest of the tribes received this mail, this post, everybody got together to wage war against Benjamin. They came to that city, to Giva, and they asked...
And this is the same Benjamin as Joseph's son?
Yeah, many years later. Okay, this is during the time before we had kings. Okay, so this is before we had King David and Solomon. And what happened is that they went to the tribe of Benjamin, and they said to the tribe of Benjamin that give us these people who have committed this crime, so we can bring them into judgment. But the tribe of Benjamin refused to bring the people who were in charge of this massacre. So when the rest of the tribe saw that they are not cooperating, so they waged war against the tribe of Benjamin, and they almost killed the entire tribe of Benjamin. It was only 600 men left. And just before they started the war, they also swear. What was their swear? That no man should give his daughter to Benjamin for a wife. That will get married with the tribe of Benjamin. By the way, I see your faces. So don't think that what we are experiencing, it's the worst in history. We are actually in much, much better shapes than many of the times in the Jewish history and the world history. Just, somebody told me once that if you want to be depressed, read the news. If you want to be happy, read the history. So this is so they were very successful. They almost seized the tribe of Benjamin, but then a few years after, they realized that the tribe of Benjamin is going to disappear. Right? There's only women and daughters, and there is 600 men that remain, but we are not allowing them to marry our daughters. So it was years after they got together, and they came up with a solution. They had a problem. The problem was that they swore, right, not to give their daughters to Benjamin. So they had a solution. What was the solution? Let's see. Read the Chenji, please, the second part.
What verse did they derive this permission from? Rav said, "Is said from us, but not from our descendants."
Yeah, meaning that our forefathers, they are the one, our parents, they are the one who swore not to give their daughters to Benjamin, but it's not us. Therefore, this swear is not applicable on us. What day that they did it, and they permitted the tribe of Benjamin to marry again, it was on the 15th of Av. So that's another reason that the Talmud counts for our reason of marking this the happiest day in the Jewish calendar. Let's continue. So that's our second reason. Let's see the third one.
The dying in the desert ceased. Rabbi, the son of Bar Khana, said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, on this day, the dying in the desert ceased.
Yeah. So you remember, everybody remember the story of the spies, right? The spies going to the land of Israel and they coming back with this terrible news. And all the Jewish people started crying, saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, take us back to Egypt. We don't want to go to this promised land, the land that eats its inhabitants. And Hashem gets very angry. And the punishment is that the Jews will now have to roam in the desert for 40 years. And those who were above 20, okay, at that time, at the time of the spies, they will not step foot in the land of Israel. They will all die in the desert. But nobody, they wouldn't die all at once, right? It's going to be a disaster for the Jewish people. So every year, there was one night, the night of the 9th of Av, Tisha B'Av, that people will dig holes in the ground, graves, and they would go to sleep in the graves. And in the morning, some of them, about 15,000 of them, wouldn't wake up. They would die.
Wow.
The last year, they did the same. Everybody dug their grave, and they went to sleep in the grave, and they wake up in the morning, and they are all there. So they said, maybe we made a mistake, right? Because those days they did not have Swiss watches. So they said, maybe we made a mistake. So they went to sleep. The 10th of Av, again, inside the graves. And again, the 11th of Av, they wake up in the morning and they counting and everyone is there. So they said, maybe we made another mistake. So they went to sleep another night until the 15th of Av came. When the 15th of Av came, they saw what's happened in the middle of the month, right? The moon is full. When the moon is full, you can't mistaken that maybe I made a mistake in the date, because the moon is full, meaning that it passed, it finished. 9 of Av won't happen again this year. So they realize that they stop dying, meaning that the decree is finished and everybody was supposed to die in the desert died, and this is a change of generation, and now everybody would survive. They will march to the land of Israel. So it was a very, very happy day, because imagine every year you go to sleep in a grave because you are not sure, maybe there's 15,000 who won't wake up in the next morning. So this is the fourth things that happen in the 15th of Av, the day of happiness, by realizing that the desert ceased, stopped. What is the last one?
The roadblocks.
Sorry, not the last one. How many we said already? 1 second. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Now we are holding in the 4, and then there is another one, 5. Okay, the roadblock. Yes.
The roadblocks to Jerusalem were removed. Ullah said, on this day, Hosea ben Allah removed the roadblocks Jeroboam ben Nevat placed to prevent the Jews from ascending in pilgrimage to the Holy Temple, saying, whoever wants to shall ascend.
So this is another period in Am Israel where Am Israel divided into 2 kingdoms. It was the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. One of the first kings of the kingdom of Israel was Yeravam ben Nevat, and he was a wicked person, and he was afraid, since the temple Bet HaMikdash is in the kingdom of Judah, so the Jews, the Israelites, will go to Mount Moriah. They might stay there. So he blocked all the roads to Jerusalem, basically not allowing all the Israelites to be able to go to Jerusalem, and he built 2 Avodah Zarah temples. He built 2 places of idol of worshiping to satisfy the need of the Jews for spirituality, and it did not allow the Jews to go to the temple, to Bet HaMikdash. Many years later, there was a new king in the kingdom of Israel, which his name was Hoshea ben Elah. And Hoshea ben Elah basically removed all the blockages from the roads to Jerusalem. And he said to all the Israelites, to all his kingdoms, everybody who wants to pray, wants to go pilgrimage to Jerusalem, can go to Jerusalem, and enable basically the Jews to go back to the Holy Temple and to reconnect with God, which again, it's a very happy occasion, and that too happened on the 15th of Av. And let's see the last thing that happened in the 15th of Av. Oh, not the last one, another one. Then there is a last one, yes.
The slain of Beitar were buried. Rabbi Masna said, on this day, the slain of Beitar were buried. That day, the sages of Yavne instituted the blessing, who is good and who does good. Who is good? Because their bodies did not decay. Who does good? Because they were eventually brought to burial.
So the story of Beitar is doing the destruction of the second temple. So Jerusalem was destroyed, but many Jews were still living in the land of Israel. The biggest populated city was the city called Beitar, where a very famous person led this city. His name is Bar, who remember the name? Bar Kokhba.
Yeah.
Bar Kokhba later, he managed the how do you say, revolution against Adrianus, and which wasn't successful. And Adrianus is taking his entire army, and they killed all the inhabitants of Beitar, which were many people. And as a punishment, he did not allow to bury all those who died. For 7 years was a city, a major city that they slaughtered everybody, and they did not allow anyone to go to that place, the Jews to go there and to bury the people. And then a new king came. After 7 years, a new king came, and he allowed the Jews to go to Beitar to bury the remains. When they came to Beitar, they saw a miracle. What was the miracle? That the bodies did not decay, although it's been 7 years after they died. And they were very happy that they actually managed to bring them into burial. So therefore, our sages, they were so happy, so they constituted a new blessing in the grace after the meal. So how many blessings we have in the grace after the meal? We have an additional blessings, right? Boneh berachamav Yerushalayim, amen. And then we have another blessing. Atov ve'ameitiv. U'heitiv lanu, u'meitiv lanu, u'yetiv lanu. So that long blessing was constituted by our sages on that day, okay? Because of the happiness that all of the slain people were being able to be buried. Okay, so that happened too on the 15th of Av. And let's see the last thing that happened on the 15th of Av.
Cutting the altar wood was completed. Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef said, on this day, the wood cutting for the altar was completed. As we learned, Rabbi Eliezer the Great said, from the 15th of Av on, the weather is cooler and the wood was no longer cut because it wouldn't be dry. Rabbi Menashiah said, this day was called the day of the breaking of the axe.
So one of the things that is needed in Bet HaMikdash, and mostly needed in Bet HaMikdash, is wood. Because you have the fire, the altar needs to have a constantly fire, because you constantly need to bring offering. Okay, and those offering, to consume the offering, you need a lot of energy, you need a lot of fire. Where is Victor? Victor can tell you how many GPUs you need in order to consume all the... So all this would come from wood. The problem was when the Jews came to build the second Bet HaMikdash after the first exile. So the Babylonians, they destroyed the entire green of the land of Israel, and they couldn't find wood. So wood became a very, very expensive offering to bring to Bet HaMikdash. Okay? Now, by bringing wood, by cutting wood, you only permit to cut the wood for Bet HaMikdash in the summer, between the month of Nisan until the middle of the month of Av. Why? Because after the middle of the month of Av, the winter, the weather starts changing, becomes more humid and colder. So there is more chances of the wood to be infected by infestation. Okay? So that day was the day of celebration that the cutting of the wood for Bet HaMikdash is completed. Now, this is all what the Talmud says. Now we're going to jump to what the Rebbe says. And what basically we had until now, it's 6 reasons of different things that happen historically on the 15th of Av, that each one of them sounds to be a reason for celebration. And therefore, our sage is saying that that is the reason why this day is the happiest day in the calendar. Now, our Rebbe will connect all those different reasons, which, you know, with first glance, you don't see any connection between them. The Rebbe will find something in common within all those different reasons. And the Rebbe will say, this one thing which is in common among all this is why this is the happiest day in the Jewish calendar. Are you ready? So
Yes.
this is something that you parents, when you parents learn this piece of Talmud, they never understood, right? You only learn on different things that happen on the day. Okay, fine. You know, there is when you go on CNN, I don't know if CNN, but other news, today in history, right? So you read things that happen on the 6th of August in history. But what's the relationship between them? What's the connection? Here, the Rebbe will draw a line to connect all of those historical events. Okay, let's see.
Intermarrying tribes. The connection between these 5 reasons is as follows. Each of them are related to the concept of unity and love among the Jewish people. Regarding the holiday of the 15th of Av, the Talmud says that the reason it is a festive day is because it is a day on which the tribes were permitted to intermarry. This reflects the theme of unity, showing that there was no separation or division between the tribes.
Yeah, so the first one is easy, right? Everybody can marry everybody. It's a unity. It's a happiness, but not just a separate happiness. It's a happiness directly related to the unity of Am Israel. The Rebbe immediately jumped to the second reason, the story with Benjamin, the sad story with Benjamin. Let's see.
Intermarrying with Benjamin. Similarly, the reason that it is a day on which the tribe of Benjamin was allowed to rejoin the community also reflects the concept of unity. There had been a reason for establishing a barrier between the tribe of Benjamin and the other tribes. But by interpreting the verse, none of us will give his daughter to Benjamin, as regarding us, but not our children, they permitted the tribe of Benjamin to once again intermarry with the rest of the Jewish people. This restored complete unity among the people.
Again, a reason, a celebration of unity, because now Benjamin, which for a few years was separated from the rest of the Jewish people, can now be back. Now let's see the reason for the happiness of the third cause.
End of the desert deaths. The same idea applies to the reason that it is a day on which the people in the desert stop dying.
Okay, so what's the explanation? That's a little bit more tough. Yeah.
Before that event, there was a major division among the people. There was a generation of knowledge, Moshe's generation, who, despite their greatness, were the generation on the desert and could not enter the land of Israel. And there was the following generation, those who would eventually enter the land. It is clear that before all the men of war had perished, the people could not truly stand as equal. God himself had divided them. Some had been sentenced not to enter the land, while others had been told they would enter, take possession of it, and reach the place God had chosen to rest his presence.
Yeah. So there were the desert Jews and the land of Israel Jews. Those who knew that they're going to die in the desert, and those who knew that we here temporary, we are going to the promised land. And that is a big separation. But
once the deaths in the desert had ended, and it was clear that the decree was over, and all those who remained were destined to live and enter the land, they stood together in unity. They were all whole and ready to enter the land, about whom the verse states, "You are all alive today," because they all shared one Father and stood before him together in true unity.
So again, a reason, the commonality among all them, it's a reason of unity, a reason for unity. Now, removing the roadblock, that's easy, right?
The same idea applies to the reason that it is the day on which Hosea, son of Elah, removed the guards that Jeroboam had stationed to prevent people from going up to Jerusalem for the festival pilgrimage.
Okay, what's the reason? Yes.
When Jeroboam set up guards to stop people from making the pilgrimage and placed golden calves in Dan and Bethel, he created division among the people.
Dan and Bethel was the two temples which he built in the kingdom, in his land, in the kingdom of Israel, one in the south, one in the north. And by making those temples, he wanted the Jews not to go to Israel, but to go to these temples to idol worshiping. Yes. So what he did, when he did it, he created division. Yes.
Instead of all making the same pilgrimage, Jews were made to go to different sites. It is clear then that when those guards removed on the 15th of Av and the Jews were once again able to go to the Holy Temple for the pilgrimage, it restored unity among the people. Jews from all 12 tribes could not travel together to the same place, the one chosen by God.
And now those roadblocks are removed and we can be all together praying in the same place. Point that the Rebbe doesn't speak about idol worshiping and not idol worship. That's not the main point. The main point is that everybody could be once again together. That's a celebration because of the unity. We can all go to Bet HaMikdash to pray together. Now, for the fourth story, the burying of the dead of Beitar, the slain of Beitar.
The same is true regarding the reason that it is a day on which the victims of Beitar were allowed to be buried. The Talmud says that on the day the people killed in Beitar were finally allowed to be buried, the sages in Yavne instituted the blessing, "Who is good and does good." Good, because the bodies had not decayed, and does good, because they were allowed to be buried. This shows that on the 15th of Av, peace and unity were brought about not only among the living, but also among the departed souls, the victim of Beitar. Through their return to earth, they were united with all those who will one day rise in the resurrection of the dead. In order to be part of that resurrection, they needed to first experience to "thus you shall return," as the Talmud explains in Tractate Chabad.
Now, because they were not buried, they have not turned back to dust. So up until their burial, they couldn't be resurrected with the other deads. So it brought a separation between the departed souls. Because there were Jews who were killed, who were dead, but they will be resurrected one day. Why? Because they are buried. And they are Jews, they are souls who have departed, they are dead, but they will not resurrect with the dead. Why? Because they're not buried. So that day, when they were allowed to bury, so it brought unity among all the souls of the Jewish people. Even they will now be resurrected with the dead. That's one reason. Now the Rebbe brings another point into the story of Beitar, a point of unity.
There's an additional point here. The Talmud says that the decree against Beitar came about because his people were in conflict with the people of Jerusalem. At the time when Jerusalem was in mourning and sorrow, Beitar was in a state of celebration. Because of this disconnect, they were punished by being denied burial for a time.
Wow. And that's again an unbelievable piece of history that, living in 2025 and thinking that we are now in the worst time in history, we don't know enough history. So let's see, what does the Talmud, the Yerushalayim Talmud, said a story about the separation between the Yerushalayim people and Beitar people, to the point that when Yerushalayim was destroyed, which is about 50 years before Beitar is destroyed, the people of Beitar, they were celebrating. Let's see, unbelievable story.
Beitar stood for 52 years after the destruction of the temple. It had not been destroyed when the temple fell. Why was it eventually destroyed? Because they lit celebratory lamps after the destruction of the temple. Beitar rejoiced over Jerusalem's downfall. Why did they light lamps? Because members of Jerusalem's city council were living in the region. When they saw someone traveling towards Jerusalem, they would say to him, "We have heard that you wish to become a ruler or official, so we have come to support your appointment." But their real intent was malicious, to extort money from him.
Sounds similar, right? Sound familiar? Yeah, the person responded.
If the person responded, "That's not my intention," they would say, "We have heard you're trying to sell your field." Again, he will deny it. Then one of them would say to the other, "What do you want from him? Just write it and I will sign it." In other words, they forged a deed of sale. They will then send the forged document to the official in charge of the field and tell him, "Don't allow so-and-so to enter his field. He sold it to me." When the victim found out, he would say in anguish, "Better if my leg had broken and I never make the trip to Jerusalem."
Why? Because these people, they taken everything I owned, right? They taken everything I had. But as a result, when Yerushalayim was destroyed,
as a result of this corruption and the bitterness it caused, the people of Beitar rejoiced at the destruction of Jerusalem. But they too did not go unpunished. As it is written, "One who rejoices at another's downfall will not go unpunished." Anyone who takes joy in the suffering of others is not spared from judgment, and so Beitar was destroyed.
So let's see how the Rebbe turns this occasion into an occasion of happiness and unity. Yeah. From this,
we understand that as long as the decree was still in effect and the punishment had not been lifted, there was a lack of unity among the people. Some were in the category of whoever mourns for Jerusalem will merit to see its joy, while others did not mourn for Jerusalem at all, and even acted in ways that they were the very opposite of mourning.
Which is the people of Beitar, right? Like we said. But
when the 15th of Av came, the day on which the victims of Beitar were allowed to be buried, it became clear to everyone that their spiritual punishment had been lifted. The fact that the decree was nullified in the physical world meant that it had already been revoked in the spiritual realm. As a result, unity was restored among the Jewish people, even among those Jews who had previously acted contrary to the spirit of mourning for Jerusalem. Once they had received their punishment, the principle of when your brother is degraded before your eyes applies. The sages explain that this means that once he had suffered, he is again considered your brother. For such a person, the commandment to love your fellow as yourself applies in full force. Genuine love and fellowship as defined by the Torah.
That's a very important, we're going to see it from the Torah, from the Talmud actually. It's very important when somebody did something wrong and now he got his punishment. So in our society, in our Western society, once it comes out, so people will turn cold shoulder to him. But the Torah teaches us something else. The Torah teaches us that if somebody paid the price, you have to restore the relationship as it was before. Let's see. Source number 6 from the Talmud, Tractate Makot. Yes.
All those liable to receive karet, excommunication of the soul, who were flogged, are exempted from their punishment of karet, as is stated, and your brother shall be degraded before your eyes, indicating once he is flogged, he is as your brother, as his sin has been atoned and he is no longer excised from the Jewish people. This is a statement of Rabbi Hananiah ben Gamliel.
He paid the price, meaning that his sins are now washed and is now considered your brother the same that he was before. Now, the Rebbe takes it and applies it to also the story of unity of Beitar and in Yerushalayim. And now for the last one, the history of the wood offering, how this is related to unity.
The reason why they prepared wood in the designated wood chamber was so that the people would be able to offer their sacrifices at a proper time without any obstacles or delays. In other words, even if someone needed to bring a sacrifice at a time when it was no longer possible to cut fresh wood, or if the person bringing the sacrifice couldn't provide wood, whether due to lack of money, time, or some other reason, there would already be wood available in the chamber for the altar, and the sacrifice could still be brought.
Yes.
Thus, preparation of wood for the altar was associated with charity.
They helped, they cared, and they helped for everyone. And now the story with the wood after doing the rebuild of the second Bet HaMikdash.
This is what happened. When the Jewish exiles returned during the time of the second temple, they found no wood available in the storehouses needed for the altar. Some families volunteered to donate wood for the altar. Thus, the prophets among them established, even if the designated chambers in the temple were filled with wood, these donors would continue to bring their contributions on those days.
Why? To recognize that in the time of need, they put all the efforts to bring wood which fits to be brought to the altar. So now the Rebbe explains something very interesting. Yeah, initially,
one family donated wood for the altar. When that supply was used up, another family stepped forward and donated more, and so it continued. Therefore, the prophets among them instituted the rule that even if the designated chamber is full of wood, these families should still bring their own donation. Since they had originally donated wood at a time when there was no wood in the chamber, their day was established as their special holiday every year.
Okay, so there is one family who will bring every family at the time that she brings their donation, so they celebrate it. But there's one family which brings the wood on the 15th of Av, and this is a celebration for everyone. Why? This is what the Rebbe will explain now. There is an additional point here. Yeah.
There was a major difference between those who donated wood for the altar before the 15th of Av and those who did so afterward. The families who donated wood up until the 15th of Av certainly fulfill a great mitzvah. However, even if they hadn't donated, someone bringing a sacrifice could still go to the forest and cut wood themselves for the altar. In contrast, the family who donated wood after the 15th of Av provided a much greater benefit because by that time, It was no longer possible to go to the forest to cut wood for the altar, since the sun was no longer shining in full strength.
And therefore, those who bought the wood after the 15, from 15 and up on, they made a major favor to the rest of the people. Yes, this shows.
This shows that donating wood at the time was a great mitzvah, greater than at any other point during the year.
But now that brings another point on top of it. Yes.
According to the schedule of wood offering, there were a number of families who brought their offering after the 15th of Av. The Mishnah lists dates such as the 20th of Av and later. These offerings all have a special quality because by that time, wood was no longer readily available. However, the offering of the 15th of Av has a unique distinction. It was associated with all Jews.
So remember, every family historically has a date which they are bringing the wood and they're making a whole celebration. But the family who brings on the 15th of Av, it's not only a celebration for this family, but it's a celebration for all the Jews. Why? This is what the Mishnah explains now.
The Mishnah states that anyone who was unsure of their tribal lineage, someone who didn't know which family or tribe they belonged to, and therefore didn't know with whom to bring the wood offering, was to join the offering of Zatu of the tribe of Judah, who brought on the 15th of Av.
So basically, in the 15th of Av, everybody who was not affiliated, everybody who did not know which tribe he belongs to, which family he belongs to, everybody who had no father and mother, he would bring wood to Bet HaMikdash on the 15th of Av together with the Zatu family of the tribe of Judah. Let's see it in the Talmud itself.
On the 15th of Av, the descendants of Zatu of the tribe of Judah, included with this group of Zatu's descendants were other priests, Levites, and anyone who erred with regard to his tribe, that is, Israelites who did not know which tribe they were from.
Yeah, from this
we see that the wood offering brought on the 15th of Av is associated with all Jews.
So basically what we did is we connected all the different separate events that happened in the 15th of Av, and we found that the core of all of these events is a celebration of unity among all the Jewish people. Now let's jump back to what we started. You remember the dance in the vineyard. So let's jump back to it and see the unity there to how to celebrate this.
Based on the above, that the central theme of the 15th of Av is unity among the Jewish people, the opposite, that is the repair and undoing of baseless hatred, which was the cause of the destruction, it becomes clear why the way this holiday was celebrated was by the daughters of Jerusalem would go out and dance in the vineyards. Despite all the differences between them, whether in appearance, background, or status, as detailed in the Baraita, they all joined together in the same dance in peace and unity. Moreover, when they danced, they all wore borrowed white garments so as not to embarrass those who had none. As the Talmud later describes, a king's daughter would borrow from the daughter of the high priest's daughter from the daughter of the deputy, and so on. This practice powerfully expressed the extent of their peace and unity. Even someone from a more prominent family would humble herself before someone of lesser status, ask her for help, and gratefully accept it.
Which again, this is resembling that this day, the day of 15th of Av, it's the happiest day in the Jewish calendar because it's a day of unity of the Jewish people. Okay, that was it. Let's see key points. But before key point, for me personally, the 15th of Av is another has another reason of celebration because that's my marriage anniversary. So tomorrow night, we will celebrate it 15 years since we got married.
Wow.
That's good. Mazel tov.
Everybody is invited to celebrate with us.
Israel, did Chaya come out dancing in the white dress and you chose her in the field?
I was dancing instead. I'm still dancing until today. Okay, let's see the key point. Chenji, please.
The 15th of Av, along with Yom Kippur, is considered by the Talmud to be one of the greatest days for the Jewish people. The Talmud lists 6 unique events that occurred on this day. The Lubavitcher Rebbe teaches that the common thread connecting all these events is a theme of Jewish unity. Here's how. Lifting the marriage restrictions between tribes, including readmitting the tribe of Benjamin, symbolizes the removal of barriers and the unification of all segments of the nation. The annulment of the decree on the generation of the desert created a connection between the older generation that left Egypt and the new one entering the land of Israel, bridging the past and the future. The burial of the victims of Betar enabled them to be a part of the resurrection, which depends on burial. Their death was punishment for rejoicing over Jerusalem's fall. Their burial marked forgiveness and the return of the unity of the nation. The donation of wood for the altar. Families donated wood so that even the poor, those who lacked resources, could participate in temple service. This mitzvah reflects national unity. On the 15th of Av, even those unsure of their tribal lineage could bring the wood offering representing shared participation and inclusive unity. The daughters of Jerusalem danced in borrowed clothes, borrowed identical garments, and in a shared circle without social classes or distinctions, expressing equality, inclusion, and unity.
Now, what's the takeaway from this?
The holiday of Tu B'Av teaches us the immense value of unity among all Jews. Even when we differ in worldview, status, or lifestyle, we must always focus on what unites us. We must seek common ground with those who think differently, remove barriers, and strengthen the bond and love between all segments of the Jewish people.
Amen.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
I think I don't need to add anything on it, but what we could see, if I may add a few words, is what we could see that how history, it's so relevant in the present. We always need to look backwards in order to correct ourselves, in order to have a better, Bezrat Hashem, a better future. And what we are lacking, one of the things that we are lacking the most, and it's very vocal now, it's maybe more vocal than the actual problem is the lack of unity. So each one needs and can do his piece in order to bring more unity among his close circle, his family, his friends, and people he knows. And then eventually all those circles will connect to each other. And it will be Barucheinu Avinu, Hashem will bless us once again when he sees that we are all one. So l'chaim, Shabbat Shalom. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Shabbat
We just stop the recording.